Hi, my name's Emma, and let's talk spooky stuff. Fried Barry is a movie about a man who is possessed while on a bender. And if that sounds wacky, well, buckle up because we have a lot to talk about. Directed and written by Ryan Kruger, Fried Barry is a South African drug-fueled horror. Kruger loosely based Fried Barry on his 3-minute short experimental film from 2017, which goes by the same name. The feature is based in Cape Town and follows Barry. We don't know a lot about him because the old switcheroo happens pretty early in, but from what we can tell, Barry is a neglectful father whose addiction has taken hold of his life. But his bender is put on pause when he is abducted by a UFO and possessed by an alien being. Now, with the real Barry trapped beneath the surface, we follow a silent alien's journey through the grim drug and party scene in Cape Town. There's really no question as to why this is called Fried Barry, because although Barry does have the addiction, what we watch is an hour and a half of this alien stumbling into several different situations that wind him up extremely fried. And his alien brain must somehow control how his body absorbs these substances, because there is no way any human on Earth could withstand the copious amount of paraphernalia that Barry takes during the course of this film. Fried Barry does not follow a traditional script, and it does show. The film was written within 72 hours as a scene breakdown. Most of the dialogue and scenes were improvised or tweaked as they went. One thing I find really interesting is this film is labeled as a comedy, but it really depends on how you personally find the grim reality of it all. I mean, I wouldn't call Requiem for a Dream funny. Each to their own. This film feels like it's just on the edge of being so quirky it could be funny, but also the realism around the lower class struggles and the drug scene did not give me any giggles. In a way, you could view this film as being about an alien being perplexed by the human race and by the way we treat our bodies and poison ourselves just to feel something. Something to think about. And although this film is extremely unique in its concept, surprisingly, it reminded me of parts of many other dark films. Under the Skin has comparisons in the body takeover of an ET, as the audience watch helplessly as the alien fools humans. But in Fried Barry, we barely hear him talk, and we don't really know anything about Barry himself. As I said, the old switcheroo happens quite early. So not knowing Barry's intentions in life, personality, any of his hopes or dreams. Obviously, he is stuck in this rut, but we don't really know anything about him. And same goes for the alien. We don't know what its purpose is to be here. Is the alien just here to experience what it's like being a human? Which makes me think about films like Bad Boy Bubby, a film about a deranged man experiencing the free world for the first time. This one seems more similar in the way that Fried Barry stumbles through his journey, being pulled around person to person. But I cringe to say that I think that this makes more sense in Bad Boy Bubby, because although he's not the best person, we do have empathy for him. We understand how he got into the situation and we're given that backstory. So watching him go through, we understand his curiosity of human life. And that's my main issue for this film. You can either watch it blindly as a man taken over by an alien that has a very strange and chaotic day on Earth, but the idea of him being locked into a drug addict and no ties to either character seems like an empty setup. There's no real introduction, leaving the audience emotionally detached while they're disturbed by the intense scenes. And when I say intense, I mean intense. From jump cut scenes of someone shooting up to an extremely intense, jarring party scene where you feel like you're inside the speaker the whole time, to my favorite scene, which is the alien abduction. And I can only describe this scene as being almost like an Aphex Twin or Chris Cunningham film clip, if you've ever seen one of them. It feels like he took over for that portion, which I love. It's very intense and stylized, and you're just not ready. But as chaotic as those 2 minutes are, it's not out of place because the whole film is this strange, wacky, in-your-face journey about drugs, sex, and true grit. Which brings me to my favorite part, the stylization. The film really utilizes every unhinged moment and quirky situation to create montages that use several different filming and editing techniques. These different techniques sometimes are just for stylization and other times are for metaphors, such as the cutaway we keep seeing of Barry underwater struggling. It's bright red and he can't breathe. This is him being held below the surface of the alien as he's being possessed. And then there's the drug trips, which are shown with time lapses, POV steady cams in the club, over the top green screen driving scenes that look fake on purpose. You name it, this film has taken the chance to experiment with its wacky content, matching it with a feeling and tone. And it also does this with lighting. There's a jarring juxtaposition from the start of the film with natural lighting to the UFO beam, which isn't the traditional white but a glowing red. And from there we're put on a roller coaster journey of this alien interacting with the world. And my favorite part is watching it unfold and wondering how they're going to use the stylization to create the next scene. I was really impressed with all of the time that would have taken to put together these techniques, and it really kept me glued to the screen because obviously I felt like the story and my emotional value in the characters was a little bit lacking. But I also wonder if this is the purpose. Maybe it was to highlight the use of these techniques, because the film seems to be centered around some just really wacky moments with not much actual story or character arc. And I think this probably does reflect what we were talking about before with the script being written so quickly and a lot of the film being improvised. I just felt detached from the characters in the film at certain points. It just seemed off the rails, but this may have been the intention. Fried Barry is strange, silly, and disturbing all at the same time, and I'm still unsure where the comedy comes in, but its strangeness may feel like a dark comedy to some. For me, this film wasn't really a story about a man on a bender who was then possessed by an alien, but instead it was a montage of sex and drugs. With a lot of cool stylization, it's there. Fried Barry drops on the 7th of May in most countries on Shudder. I am in two minds about this one. I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10 for personal score. I do think it can work for people, but for my comedy, I do like wacky comedy. I like things like Xavier Renegade Angel. I do like some wacky stuff, but I'm not too much of like the greasy strangler type randomness. But I mean, this film, I feel like if it's going for comedy, it's going more towards that kind of comedy. So if you are a hootie tootie disco cutie, you may like this film. It's just not overwhelmingly funny. It's more just strange. For scare, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10 just for adult themes. It is extremely adult, this movie, and there are some pretty gross scenes. So if you like that, you like it. And originality, you'd think I'd give it pretty high in originality, but because it has a really original premise, but I don't think much is done with it, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. When you take away the 2 minutes of the alien abduction, a lot of it is just random chaos, and it doesn't really form an original storyline. It's just more of a montage. There are some really interesting ideas put in the film, but when they kick in, I just don't feel like there's a lot of structure around them. It just feels like random. But I don't think originality always means it has to be the most random thing that you can never think of. I think it has to do with having an original storyline, and unfortunately I don't feel like this film really delivered that at the end of the day. It was, again, more montagey. Anyway, that's what I thought about Fried Barry. I was really excited for this one. If you do want to watch on stylization alone, I would definitely recommend that, and especially for the alien abduction scene. I thought that was cool, but it's over quite quickly. But I want to hear what you think. Did you like it? Didn't you like it? I love reading all of your different opinions, so drop them down there in the comments. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I hope you're staying very safe and you're staying spooky. Bye, guys.